Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Click there, and there's a lot to scroll through. On our navigation bar up at the top, there's a button that says Education. And there's a drop down that says Useful Guides. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that you can download. If you go to our media tab there, you can get past shows and podcasts and interviews and all sorts of things. Spend a little time there before you give Sharice a call. Learn all about what she does, and then come in. Let's talk about your retirement and how it's all going to work. And one of the things we were just talking about was building income in retirement. We're going to go in with a Social Security check. That's income. We're going to go in with probably a 401k. That's not income. How does it become income? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. There's a professor that we've brought up before. His name is Dr. Wade Pfau. I know this is like nerd alert, but anyway.
Hey, hold on a minute. Full disclosure, I'm a nerd.
You are.
Wade Pfau is a retirement professor, and he is amazing. He debunked the 4% rule. Anytime I have questions, he will answer me back. Like he keeps those advisors on their toes. Right when you think something, you're like, but why? But why? But why? He loves answering me back. So I didn't know you're going to bring this up, but super smart guy. Some things he says I like, most things he says I like, and some things I don't. But go ahead, Randy.
All right. So he put together a little study on how people that he's worked with develop income, and he found this. 1/3 of people like living off the growth and the income of their portfolios. 1/3 of the people liked to use annuities, and 1/3 of the people had kind of a split between bonds and whatever we have here above us, kind of a hybrid of all of these different strategies. So I wanted to ask you, Sharice, when people come in and you talk to them about the options they have for building income, where do they fall?
Right. And you know what's funny? I haven't seen him publish this yet, but he's pretty spot on, actually. And, you know, if you go back 5 years ago, he wouldn't have said 1/3 of people preferred the safety of annuities because there's been big growth in annuities over the last 5 years, and especially since 2022, because now they're offering a higher profit, higher return on average based on interest rates. So now they're just like quite lovely, and people are really starting to say, hey, well, why not? So that wasn't even in his billfold, because I used to question him, because 10 years ago, he'd be like, why I don't like annuities. And now he's even changed his mind of why I do like annuities. So it is funny, the big change. But right now, this is really about a pretty good big mixed bag of accurate data, because that's what I'm seeing in my office when new people come in. I will say less people have annuities when they come in. They have more of that growth and income. And I would say 1/4 have them, but he's taken it from across the country when he does his data. I'm doing it right here in just Central Florida. And then the split bond hybrid strategy, I'm also starting to see a little bit more of. So I will say this much. The people who are calling into the radio show, Randy, they are the ones that are more in that growth and income portfolio, because they notice it had a lot of hiccups over the last couple of years. Some of them are just back to even. Some are not back to even from 2022 losses, and some are ahead, and they don't want to keep bouncing back and forth. So they're starting to listen about, well, why is my neighbor in some of these annuities, or why do they have some of these notes, or why are they using active management and I'm not? So now people are starting to wake up and smell the coffee, that there's other things out there besides just a 60-40 portfolio or just a dividend stock portfolio. So I'll give you a great example. So I have a client, she's part of our Zinnia Platinum Club. She brought her dad in about 6 months ago, and this advisor / insurance agent did not set up years ago his annuity right, and his beneficiaries were the kids, and it should have been him, even though him and his wife were owners of these contracts. It was really weird. He just didn't know what he was doing. Nevertheless, he came to me and he said, Sharice, I've got 2 brokerage accounts and I have an IRA, and my daughter really likes you, and I want to start working with you, but I got to know what you're all about. And let me tell you all, he is 80 years old. Okay. But he doesn't act it. He doesn't look it. And he's still working, and he's got businesses he's selling. So just kind of know the storyline here. We move him into a more conservative strategy, and we did treasuries and T-bills, cash CDs in one account. One of the accounts is going to go to a small fixed annuity. And then one of the larger accounts that's in the IRA has the Apple and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and a QQQ, a heavier picks of stock, which can have a lot larger losses. And it wasn't in our active managed portfolio where it's being actively managed monthly, which is actually going to be going to probably daily here soon. But what I want to convey here is that I sat there and I talked to him. He came in, I didn't even know he was there, and I stepped in for 20 minutes with him and his daughter, and I saw fear in his eyes. And I looked at him and I said, let me ask you a question. I can do anything you want, but I need to make sure you don't look back in the rear view mirror. So I can sell all this stuff. You've made over 50 to 100% on all these stocks up until this time. I said, if the stock market crashes and you lose 30%, how are you going to react? He's like, I'm going to be mad. I said, are you going to be mad at me or the stock market? He's like, probably both. I was like, okay. I was like, that portfolio could easily go down 50. So you and I need to duke it out right now and have a conversation. But he came in because he was so worried because of the attempted assassination and all this. He was unraveled, right? The emotions were getting to him and he just wanted to talk and make sure he had somebody to communicate with. He was in a good place and he made the best decisions in these accounts. So I looked at him and I read people. I know people. I can look into your eyes and I can see your posture. I've learned this over the years. And I just knew that I had to have this conversation with him. It would be the same conversation if my dad was alive today, I'd be having with him because I had those conversations with him. And I said, listen, over the next 5 months or so, if the stock market zips up and it makes 15% from today, you're going to be a happy camper, right? He said, yes. And I said, what if it goes down 15%? He's like, I'm not feeling good about that. I do not want it to lose 15%. I'm like, oh boy. I said, okay, so let me ask you a question. If we sell all this stuff so that you can sleep better at night for the next 5 to 6 months till after this election, and in the safe portfolio, you only make 4 to 5 and you don't make 15, how are you going to react? He's like, well, yeah, I want to make 15, Sharice. He's like, but I don't want to lose 15. And I'm like, now we're talking about risk versus reward. So you're telling me that reward isn't worth the risk. He went, yeah, I think that is what I'm saying. And I went, okay, so we can bob and weave. I said, let's put it in my actively managed portfolio. We'll put it in a conservative portfolio. And then as you feel more confident, maybe before the election or right after, however you feel, we can move it and slowly etch back into the risky stuff. And I said, we can't time the market. We don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that if you're on vacation, you're hanging out with your kiddos or you're selling your business, I don't want you to be stressed because at 80 years old, you should be enjoying life and not worrying about what's on that stock market. And that is why you're working with me. And he's only been with me for a month. And I said, and over time, we're going to coach you along this process and this journey, and we're going to hold your hand. And when you need to reach out like you did today, reach out because we want to be here and answering your questions so you don't make these emotional decisions when maybe it's just a correction or maybe you have a gut feeling and, so we're going to talk about it more or less. So it was an engaging conversation. I stood up, I shook his hand and I'm like, I'm so glad that you came to us. He's like, you know what, Sharice, I trust you so much. And he's an old school from Jersey and he's hanging on this cane, has this big metal silver eagle on it. And like, don't mess with this guy. But I shook his hand so hard. He was like, and I looked at him in his eyes. I'm like, I got you. He's like, I know you do. It was such a great conversation. And, we have conversations like that with people. That's what we do because it's important.
What's interesting about that is that's a conversation that I would think that you would have with somebody who comes in who's 60, that you look at their portfolio and they have a lot of stock. They have, a lot of mix of different things, but they have a lot of risk. And then you come in and say, okay, this is that time in your life when you dial back risk. Well, here's a guy who's been riding that wave and he's 80. And so he's still got a lot of risk. And now all of a sudden, he starts feeling uncomfortable about it. I guess there's something to be learned there, Sharice, that people have different appetites for risk, but there still needs to be that security within their portfolio that they know that if they do take a hit, and they do take some losses, that the daily bills, that everything is going to be okay. I can go on vacation, and it is possible to build a portfolio like that.
And it is, and you can do it without having to get double-digit returns every year, which we have been taught for 30 to 40 years of our life, and we're really protect from double-digit losses. Let's just work on those conservative returns, because most people will not run out of money if you focus on that versus the big risk.
Well, it is interesting as well that he comes in, and the reason he comes in is he's worried about what's going on right now outside the stock market. He's worried about the election. He's worried about our country. It's getting very emotional. He is not the only one.
No.
There are a lot of people that feel exactly the same way, and then they worry about that. They worry about the country, but they also worry about their money. And if you're having that happen in your life, give us a call. Come on in. Let's talk through it. Let's talk through your concerns, and let's talk through how we can address those concerns from a financial basis. Here's our number. Here's our website, 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or you can find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box down in the bottom right-hand corner. It says complimentary retirement consultation. When you click on that, we'll ask you to fill in a little information there, and our team will reach out to you. We'll get a date on a calendar, and we'll talk through it. Or you can schedule it right here, 833-368-3680.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Sharice Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate, and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Sharice Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency, and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Sharice Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.